Were the Vols out-coached or out-talented at Georgia? Because Caleb and I strongly disagree on this, which is not for show. It's the truth. So I want to get your take.
Oh, Tennessee was extremely out-coached. I thought Todd Monken had come back to Georgia as the offensive coordinator and play caller. But no, it was Mike Bobo, who's never got much credit for anything at Georgia. But he ran a coaching clinic against Tim Banks, and that defense was ridiculous.
Caleb, I agree with John on that. It's going to put you in the minority, but you think Tennessee was still out-talented?
I understand what you guys are saying. And just to get this out here, John, I do think Mike Bobo won the matchup with Tim Banks. Mike Bobo, I kept texting my a couple friends of mine. I'm like, guys, just wait. Mike Bobo will do something to cost Georgia this game. He always does. He always makes a dumb mistake at some point. And
he almost did on the shovel pass, just by the way.
Oh, he did. That's true. But the mistake really never came. I think what threw Tennessee off was, if you notice, they had one of the reasons they didn't bring pressure was they had actually prepared for those quick screens and time routes that Mike Bobo loves to call. So if you ever notice Tennessee on blitzes where they had some moments on blitzes to get pressure, they backed off when Carson Beck would turn his head because they were clearly coached that week to anticipate a quick screen or a time no-look pass, and those never came. But I still have to say out-talented, and the reason I have to say out-talented is I don't think the edge rushers got the pressure they were supposed to get, won their battles on the outside, and I think the linebackers largely just didn't. They were nowhere to be found. Those two things happened, and then the receivers got no separation from the cornerbacks on the offensive side. I can't really pin it on. I can't pin those things on coaching. I have to say that was a talent thing.
Okay, John, I want to get your take on all that, but I do want to clarify that Josh Heupel said that he felt like on the outside that Tennessee won some of those battles in his press conference yesterday, and he felt like that was the difference between perhaps a couple of years ago. But John, go ahead and roll with that.
Yeah. No, I mean, coaching is all about adjusting. Tennessee didn't adjust. Its linebackers were lost. I think Georgia threw a lot of motion at it, moved guys around, all the eye canning we hear about. And I think that confused Tennessee's linebacking core. Probably would have been a game where Keenan Peely was missed. He's out for the year with injury. But I think it was about adjusting. I can only, and I'm sure Tennessee blitzed a few more times than this, but I only remember one time Tennessee blitzing. I was baffled by what Tim Banks thought he was doing out there, why he was just letting the same thing happen over and over. Take a chance. By taking this approach, Tennessee allowed Carson Beck, a quarterback who has clearly been rattled by pressure. See the Ole Miss game, for example. And let him get in a comfort zone. And once he did that, he looked like he looked as good as he did against Alabama in the second half when it didn't apply pressure. And he led that comeback that almost won the game. So, yeah, you let a slumping quarterback, 12 interceptions, two fumbles in his previous 6 games. You let the guy get in rhythm. And he looked like the quarterback of last year. He looked like the quarterback he was supposed to be, a first-round draft pick, and just picked Tennessee apart. And Georgia doesn't have – you talk about talent. Georgia's receiving core is very average on its best day. Yet it consistently beat Tennessee. I thought it was awful coaching in that game.
John, here's the other aspect of Tennessee's coaching that I think is troubling if you're a Tennessee fan. They've gone into a half against elite teams a couple of different times with either an even sort of game or the advantage. And I don't think, and I'm talking about against Alabama last year and against Georgia this year, I think they're too often comfortable standing pat at halftime. And halftime is when you should make the most adjustments. I feel like there are times that they think, oh, everything's going well, let's roll. And they don't make adjustments when things are going well.
Well, that second half reminded me a little bit of the 2020 game in Athens. Tennessee had won it. This is in the Jeremy Pruitt era. the last year of Jeremy Pruitt.
It's like
May
an
rest
insult
in
to
peace.
era. It's like an insult to era to
Yeah,
refer to era and Jeremy Pruitt at the same
yeah.
time.
Well,
It's an insult to the
it,
word era.
yeah, it's appropriately spelled ERROR, not ERA. Yeah, Tennessee had to lead it. It won its first two games and had to lead at halftime. A lot of people forget that. And then Georgia outscored it like 27-0 in the second half, and it was just another blowout. The second, and this is getting to another, there were just so many things wrong with Tennessee's defense in that game. And we'll get to another one about that, how fatigued Tennessee looked in the fourth quarter. We can do that later. But yeah, I just thought it was one of the worst games of the Heupel era, given what was at stake and given the competition. This game was so winnable for Tennessee, and it just blew it.
So, John, I mean, in many ways, I agree. I don't know. Look, I'm not here to defend the coaching. If I were Tim Banks, I would have called many more stunts. I don't know why they just tried to win the battles outright when Georgia was doing 12 personnel. I would have sent some more blitzes. I didn't get it because did you guys notice that Tennessee didn't blitz a lot, yet its corners were out on islands most of the time covering the receivers? And I'm like, how do those two things happen at the same time? Which
I noticed that too. It's almost like they thought that Brock Bowers was still out there, John.
Yeah, but the tight end was open all the time. Brock, it was almost like saying, "Oh, Brock Bowers is gone. They don't have a tight end as an eligible receiver. Leave that guy alone. Don't even bother getting near him."
I think they were.
Go ahead, Ken.
No, you go ahead, John. You go ahead.
Okay. Well, you make a good point, and I noticed that early on. The announcers even commented on it. Boy, they're leaving those cornerbacks out there on an island, okay, one-on-one, which isn't a bad idea against Georgia's receivers. But you think with that, then that frees guys up. I mean, throw in a safety blitz every now and then. It was almost, it almost seemed like Tennessee was playing shorthanded back there, maybe 10 men. Maybe they should check the video to see if everybody was on the field.
Well, it's averages. So with Chuck Smith, they had like 8. So at the end of 20 years, it all averages out the same.
Well, so I'm with you guys on. Look, I understand a lot of this. I just went a little bit more with talent because I think one of the things Tim Banks, no pun intended, banked on was his defensive line, which had been dominating all year, being able to get pressure without blitzing. And I think he particularly. And John, Georgia's been wrecked on the offensive line this year. I mean, I think Tate Ratledge was back, but Tate Ratledge has been playing either not playing or playing with one hand tied behind his back all year because he's been so hurt. And he played superb in this game. And I think it's kind of the you dance with who brung you. Don't you expect Tennessee's defensive line to do and we're going to get to it too. If you're Tim Banks, weren't you preparing for your defensive line that has not let you down all year to do a lot better than they did in this game?
Certainly. I expected Tennessee to pick up where Ole Miss previous week. I mean, Ole Miss blitzed more than Tennessee did, quite a bit more, in fact. But its front four is really salty, and it severely beat up Georgia's offensive front. It seems like Tate Rutledge has been hurt for 3 years. He manages to play through a lot of stuff, and he did play well. Georgia's whole line played well. Probably the best game it's had all year. But here's the thing. Yeah, you can go into the game with that idea. Our defensive front can beat their offensive line. That makes sense. But when it's not happening, don't keep doing it over and over and just go down with a sinking ship. Again, that game was so winnable, and Tennessee's coaching just didn't try to win it. It's right there.
Yeah, you talk about adjustments. The adjustment I would have made at halftime would have been more blitzing. And that's, you go out there and you kind of play a stalemate, or you do play a stalemate in the first half. Then it's time to change them up and throw gas on the fire, in my opinion. But we've discussed the defensive side of it. My question is, John, does Tennessee have an offensive coordinator problem? And that's our poll question. You can take part. It is right now running away with yes, Joey Halzle was a soft hire. No, it's Heupel's offense. John, I want to get your take. John's appearance brought to you by Newbert Collision Center.
Fifth year, the second and third generations continue Joe Newbert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Newbert Collision Center.
John, we've seen it work out before with Kelsey Pope. They elevated him, internal promotion. But I questioned the Joey Halzle hire at the time because I felt like, from all that I've been told, that Alex Golesh is kind of a savant when it comes to offense. And more so, I just think that you needed one more bright person in the room. And you didn't go outside of your own doors and get them. Does Tennessee have an OC problem?
That's really hard for me to discern because you go back, how much of this is Heupel and how much of it's his offense coordinator? I mean, this is Josh Heupel's offense. So I give him the credit when that offense is working. I tend to blame him when the offense isn't. This is his offense. If he's got a problem with his offensive coordinator, maybe he should be able to fix it internally. I mean, take more of an active role in it. And I don't know exactly how that works, but it's his offense. He's the guy that came here with the big offensive reputation. So I have a hard time blaming the OC. But when you look at it, how bad is Tennessee's offense been? I mean, there's so much blame to go around. But you go back to 2022, Tennessee had Hendon Hooker at quarterback and Jalen Hyde at wide receiver. It doesn't have that combo anymore. It doesn't have a receiver that can stretch the field. It's I pretty much decided that Tennessee's receiving core was mediocre. It's below mediocrity. It's subpar. So it misses those guys, but I still have a hard time blaming the offensive coordinator. You may be exactly right on that, but I always, since it's Heupel's offense, I would think, well, if things aren't going as well as they should, he takes more of a hands-on approach. Would be common sense to me how he would go about it. How bad this offense is, in 2020, when Tennessee had to play an all-SEC schedule, 10 SEC games, Jeremy Pruitt, who's never been mentioned with the word savant in the same sentence, let alone offensive, Jeremy Pruitt's offense team averaged a little over 23 points a game in 10 SEC games. I'm sorry, 21 points, a little over 21 points. Tennessee's now in SEC games is averaging a little over 23. That's a stunning stat to me.
That's a crazy
yeah, that is stunning. And Caleb, I think it's oftentimes a group affair when you put together a game plan. But John's right. If Josh Heupel is the offensive mind that we all thought he was in 2022, he should step in the meeting room and say, hey, I got this. I feel like, do you guys remember when Auburn was going back and forth and it felt like every year Gus Malzahn was either taking more or less of the play calling duties? It just, I hope Tennessee, John, doesn't go down that path.
No, it was an ongoing drama. You couldn't keep up. So you're saying, and maybe that was by design. Gus just said, I'll fix it where none of us get blamed because they won't know who's doing the work. I
honestly wondered that after 4 years of I'm taking more control of the offense than no, I'm handing it off. I wondered if it was just a way to deflect blame.
John,
I'm glad you brought that up. Yeah, it was comical.
John, I want to get your quick thoughts on this. We talked to Jacob Ward yesterday, and one of the things he said is that the offense is getting spread out more because so many assistants from Josh Heupel's offense are going places. You have Alex Golesh at South Florida, Jeff Levy at Mississippi State. Lincoln Riley actually runs a similar offense now at USC. And if you look at it, every coach I just named, including Josh Heupel, their offenses are struggling right now So the question becomes, is it spreading out so much that it's getting more figured out? And how do they adjust if that's happening?
Well, that's a possibility, but we've seen this. I mean, this offense predates Josh Heupel. He didn't invent it. And so it's possible that you're seeing more of it. It's also possible that Tennessee, with the success it had in 2022, that defensive coaches around the SEC said, hey, we need to figure this offense out. And it's almost now, when we look back at it, the success in 22, when Tennessee averaged, it seemed like 46 points a game. It led the nation in scoring and points per game. That teams sort of circled, opposing teams circled Tennessee and said, we got to do something about this offense. But when you take something away, you give up something. I mean, that's just how it works, defense versus offense. So to me, that makes you wonder, is Josh Heupel kind of just, well, if this system works, we look really good. But if the system doesn't work, I don't really have a plan B. But I don't think you can ignore the talent. And I think maybe I overrated the system when Hendon Hooker was here and didn't give Hendon Hooker enough credit. Maybe I didn't give Jalen Hyde enough credit, because this was kind of all new to us. We'd been watching the Jeremy Pruitt offense. We'd been watching Butch Jones offense. And if anybody could say, yeah, that offense was known for this, in coming up with anything other than a lot of laughter. It had no identity. And then Heupel comes in, and right from the get-go, when he averaged a little over 39 points a game in that first season, I mean, I just thought it looked like, well, he just plug in anybody and this thing's going to work. That's an unrealistic concept, I guess, but that's kind of what I was thinking after watching that for 2 years. Now, reviewing it, I kind of look at it as, well, so much of that had to do with the receivers and Hendon Hooker, and they don't have that kind of talent right now at those positions. I think Nico has plenty of talent, but right now it's not happening.
Okay, well, I want to ask you about that. Does that mean that Josh Heupel is the Ed Orgeron of coaches, another Ed Orgeron? Did he get the high water mark just because of talent? Pull up work trucks, because they're all about trucks.
That is such a horrible thing to say.
Trucks that are actually available, trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the right work vehicle. Now, time is money. The perfect work vehicle doesn't break down, has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while other dealerships just can't do it. Contracting is about time. Work Trucks saves you time with less back and forth trips, and trucks that pass the highest standards to be put to work. Process is quick and easy when choosing a vehicle for work trucks, cargo vans, utility body trucks, and then iPod work bodies installed, pickup trucks of all sizes, and anything special like cranes or dump trucks. Work Truck supplies vehicles to people just like you and get you back on the road tomorrow. No dealership runaround. If you're a contractor, you need to know Work Trucks. That's a fact. Service industry, Work Trucks. They have the absolute trucks your business has to have. You need Work Trucks. Clinton Highway in Knoxville, downtown Birmingham, for the entire inventory. Go right there, worktrucksllc.com. They'll find the perfect truck, outfit it, and make sure it fits your needs to a T. Proud supporters of the Tennessee Vols. Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. So, John, Caleb got mad at me there, but my point is, in 2019, LSU was just loaded. In 2022, was Tennessee just loaded? Or did they have a great coach? Because we know in 2019, LSU didn't have a great head coach.
Well, no, Coach O. I think Coach O popped into your head because you were doing that truck commercial. Remember, Ed?
Oh, the Hummer! You want a Hummer? Everybody wants a Hummer. Get a Hummer.
JoJo?
Yeah. Tell them about JoJo. That's my one default impression that I can always do. Like, sometimes I can do a Christopher Walken and I struggle, but I can always do. I can go into that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, you probably should do Brent Musburger and Coach O doing a game together in the broadcast booth with McCarron and his girlfriend in the
I've already
stadium.
gotten called creepy Uncle Dave because I said if I based my recruitment off of the ladies that were on campus, it would be Georgia.
Okay, that is creepy. So yeah,
I'm saying if I was 18, not now.
Oh, okay. So I don't. Yeah, that's an exaggeration, but I understand why you, with the truck commercial, I can see why that all formulated in your head. That's one of the most talented teams I've ever seen in college football. That and the 2020 Alabama team that came along right after that. Tennessee doesn't have that kind of talent. Certainly, nowhere near that kind of talent. But I do wonder about that. When I go back and I think about Cedric Tillman, I think about Jalen Hyatt and those guys making plays, and I'm crediting the system, and maybe it had more to do with their ability. And Tennessee doesn't have that caliber of receiver anymore.
I thought Jalen Hyatt won the Biletnikoff Award because of the offense, not the other way around.
I did too.